Many will see the headlines as being Richarlison, of course, scoring the brace. But I think, as we've touched upon during the show, it's actually Sonny being put out to the left-hand side because he's been so good for Tottenham, playing an essential role. And I think what also shouldn't go under the radar here is that Sonny has now overtaken Christian Eriksen as having Tottenham's most assists in the Premier League era, 83. Bearing in mind, Sonny's a player that came in as an all-round kind of goal scorer. So, to have had that level of assists, that number of assists, Chris, does that just show you the impact Son has made, not just as a forward, but also as a player that contributes so much to the team?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, he got 2 assists and a goal today. He had that moment where there was that sort of telepathic link with Kane, and I think they were the all-time top assist and goal scoring combination partnership. I don't know however that was sort of framed or worded, but they had the most sort of goals collectively, didn't they? And he's just amazing, and I think he's getting better. I think he's getting better at it. I think he's before he was that Kane would drop deep and catch Sonny on the first time reverse ball or the put it round the corner and drop it behind the defenders for Sonny to run on. That was the primary way that they would link up. But now actually Son's doing that for whoever's going beyond him. Today it was primarily Lwosxi or Udogie or wide to Johnson. But it was he's dropping deeper, and just I think there's more to come from him in terms of assists. I mean, I don't know. In terms of his pace, I think he's still got the pace. So it's not like he's having to adapt his game to compensate for slowing down or whatever. But I think he's just, he's just improving. And, as we mentioned earlier with that leadership role, I think there's more to come.
Is there a way, Chris, do you think in the coming weeks you can play both Richie and Sonny in the same team? Or do you think it'll be a case of one, again, taking obviously the field and the other sitting on the bench? What do you think for you?
Well, I mean, it worked today, didn't it? It worked perfectly well. And I think probably, well, I don't know, because, we've had Sonny on the left and Richie through the middle, and it's not really worked, but it worked tremendously well today. Hopefully this isn't another false dawn, and, Richie starts to get that sort of belief and a bit of momentum and a run in the team. And I think he needs to score in consecutive games. I think that's what's been missing. I think, you need to get sort of, 2 or 3 games on the bounce, scoring in 2 or 3 games on the bounce. And then hopefully, he can get up and running, because we've never seen the best of him. That's true of probably a few players that we've sort of had through the club over the years. But there's no reason why Sonny and Richie can't play in the same team. It worked magnificently today. So, hopefully it will work equally well against Forest.
Look, Romero, some would say very lucky to have stayed on the pitch against Newcastle United, getting himself involved in really a challenge that he didn't really need to make. And Jamie Redknapp, look, I think it's fair to say Jamie doesn't always give a great view when it comes to Spurs. I think there's a lot of, I would say, maybe frustration there with the way his dad was let go towards the end, obviously, his time at Tottenham. After the game, Mitch, Jamie was asked his thoughts on Romero's tackle, and he said, look, I don't think he'll learn. I think it's in him. Some players, you just can't tame that out of them. He's just one of those. Romero, just come back, Mitch. Look, no doubt about it, really important player, vice-captain. Your thoughts on that incident today where, quite honestly, look, again, on review of that for me, could have quite easily been sent off. Is that just one of those things you've got to take, Mitch, or is there got to be some form of discipline there that has got to be taken to keep this guy on the field? Because there's no doubt about it that when Mickey comes back, they are two of the best central defensive partnerships in the Premier League. How important is it, Mitch, we keep the guy on the bloody pitch?
Yeah, of course, it's really important. Look, I'm in a bit of a dilemma, really, because it gets to a point where you're sort of like, you need to win that game, of course. And I know that the likelihood is it probably doesn't change the result if he gets sent off today because of how late in the game it was. But it was just so reckless, so reckless. And I'm not sure why he's done it. I do think Jamie Redknapp's probably right, to be honest. I think it's just part of who he is. It's part of his game of football. And I don't think it will ever be anything any manager is able to get out of him. However, I think, you know, I can't, it hurts my head looking at people saying we should sell him or blah, 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 moving on. Come on. He's on his day, he's one of the best defenders in the Premier League. He's absolutely brilliant. And yes, he's aggressive. But how many times have you seen him fly into a tackle and come away with the ball and gone, cool, that's a hell of a tackle, and we break away? I think we just have to accept that there are going to be instances where he's not going to get it completely right. And I think Ange has accepted that already. I think he's already come out and said it's just who Kuti is. It's part of his game. It always has been and always will be. And it's the risk, isn't it? It's risk and reward football because he's so aggressive. He likes to get in front of his man. He likes to be on the front foot. He likes to get the tackle in before they've really had a chance to settle themselves and control the ball and attack him. And personally, I don't have anything wrong with. I don't see anything wrong with that. I think you need a bit of aggression in the team somewhere. I think we've picked up a tag in recent years of being a bit of a nice team and being a bit soft. And I think Romero is the perfect player to sort of suggest that we're not really like that anymore. And I can understand the frustrations today. And I think he's very lucky. He's very fortunate to have stayed on the pitch. I don't think anyone could have had any complaints if he was sent off. You can sit and argue, is it a red card? Is it not? There's arguments for and against it, I guess. But at the end of the day, we just have to accept. Look at how weak we were at the back when Romero wasn't in that team. I think you have to consider how much weaker would we be without him. And I think we would be significantly worse. I personally, I'm sat there thinking, if you had to choose the more important player at the moment out of Van de Ven and Romero, I'm still picking Romero because of because of that leadership quality he has as well. And it's just the way he is on a football pitch. You've also got to look at the other side of it with that little scuffle at the end of the game that Callum Wilson and Joe Linton were getting in the faces of. I think it was Vicario and Porro and someone else. Romero was the one going over to our boys and pulling them away from it.
To be fair, after that, he did shove Vicario and Lassazo out the way of it. Which
exactly. So you got to take it with a pinch of salt. It's like Delhi when he was at his peak. He put in a few nasty challenges and he was a little bit of a dick. But, you know, when he plays for your club, you sort of overlook it a little bit. And yes, Romero's got to be careful and maybe he's still got a little bit of maturing to do. But I love the bloke and I love watching him play. And I don't want to see him leave the club anytime soon, that's for sure.
It's interesting. I mean, Chris, there's such a split debate I can see from viewers and listeners. Some are saying he's our Ramos, he's our Poyal. You have to accept that's what he's going to do. Others are saying there wouldn't be a team absolutely nuts enough to come in for him, given the fact that he has got these moments of absolute madness. Where do you stand, Chris, on the scale with Romero? And look, he's a real fan's favourite when he performs the way he does, because he is a leader. There's no doubt he does get the fans up. But there's also the fact that today, Chris, if we're winning that game only 1-0, he does that in the last 10. How can you legislate for that off the back of the fact he's only just come back from a ban?
Yeah, listen, I love him. I think he's fabulous. I think, you know, his aggression is something that as Mitch quite rightly pointed out, is something that's been missing for quite a long time. You know, Mourinho famously said, you know, you don't win anything being the nice guys. You know, you need to have that aggression. You need to have that element of nastiness, but it has to be measured and it has to be done at the right time in the right way. And this club has been so starved of success that in the back of our mind, we've all got it, haven't we? That we'll get to the FA Cup final when he'll go through someone and cost us the game, you know, because we're so, you know, so desperate to win something. But I think, you know, we are better with him in the team. I think he will. I don't think he will ever completely eradicate that element from his game. Someone, I can't remember who it was, but they made a good point in the comments earlier that actually he seemed to be a bit more composed when he was with Van de Ven alongside him. You know, maybe he feels like he has to do everything at the moment. Maybe he thinks like, actually, look, I've got to go and, you know, although that's always in his nature anyway, but actually maybe when he had, you know, Van de Ven next to him, he sort of didn't feel like he had to do everything all the time. So he sort of, he sort of could relax a little bit, and that sort of either coincidentally or as a result of that went through his best discipline record with us. He didn't even concede a free kick, did he, for the first 10 odd games? I think is that right?
I think first 5 or 6 didn't commit a foul. Him and
they were
Van Ven
immaculate,
together.
weren't they? They were immaculate. Absolutely perfect, like a couple of choir boys back there. But obviously, since he's been there, the old Romero has sort of come out a little bit. But I think we need it a little bit. He's just got to, he's 25. He will mature. I think he will learn. It will get better. It will always be there. But let's hope it's just there, in or less frequently.
I can see that you feel really uncomfortable in relation to where we are with Romero at the moment and whether this can continue. Is there for you, Russ, a disciplinary issue there that we need to face up to? And can we carry on just blindly ignoring it?
No, we can't. Is there a disciplinary issue in club football for us? Yes. Is the manager publicly prepared to admit he's going to talk to him about it? No. He's said what other people have said. It's just in his game. It's what makes him tick. But if you look at it from the other angle, is he doing anything different to the great Dave Mackay and his attitude to playing football for Spurs? Even Razor Ruddock, when he was playing for us, full of passion, no quarter given. Graham Roberts, is he doing anything different? Is he the type of player, as Chris was saying, that we haven't had for an awful long while? My stance is quite simple. There are going to be fan base members who think that it's too much of a risk in big games to be playing him when he could do that. I think there's an awful lot of us, and I'm in this camp, that we go, okay, we're just going to have to live with this a little bit. And look, we got a World Cup winner playing for our football club. That can't be a bad thing, can it? So on balance, I'm for sticking with him and him becoming an absolute legend at the football club. But, maybe Sonny could sit him down and have a chat with him instead of the manager. I don't know whether it would work. And somebody said, it's the 60s, 70s and the 80s then. Football's football. It's just not so much of a contact sport now. And that's another problem.
I think the funny thing with Sonny, and you bring him up there, the fact you can sit down with him, is that I know before the season started, they were going to have a chat about the huddle. And Sonny said he texted both Maddison and Romero. Madders replied, he's still waiting for the reply from Romero. So I think that kind of tells you the kind of nutter he is, that he's all or nothing, isn't he, Romero? I think that's the one thing he will say, is that when he's on the field, he'll give you absolutely everything. Or there's games where he just completely loses his head. But I do agree. I think it's a real hard one. I agree with Mitch that, look at players like Dele, that when he was at his best for Tottenham, he had that devilment inside him. And if you try and remove that devilment, they're no longer the same player. But at the same time, I think, again, on reflection of today, he goes up to a position now where he gets another yellow card. He's suspended anyway. And a red card would have earned him 4 games suspension. So I think there has to come a time where you need to have a word and just be like, that's just not the right time now. And I just wonder how Spurs are going to play that. I really, really do. But the good thing is, it didn't make a difference on the day. Spurs got their win. Romero stayed on the field. And ultimately, that is the most important thing.